According to USDA numbers released Wednesday, the average rental price of irrigated cropland in Nebraska for 2015 is $254 per acre. That's $8 off the record set last year and the lowest since 2012. For Tina Barrett's group of producers at Nebraska Farm Business Inc., the average cost doubled from 2005 to last year and now accounts for nearly a third of the total cost of growing irrigated corn. With lower commodity prices squeezing margins, we recently talked with Tina to discuss what producers should think about before deciding to give up a lease.
Well, cash rents have continued to rise over the last 10 years. We did see a little bit of a drop in the numbers from 13 to 14, but I think the way we handle a bushel rent, when the producer's giving up just a flat number of bushels, we always have to put that in our system as cash rent, and we just assign a market value. So we certainly saw a decrease in the value of those. So I know that those ones went down, but I don't know that a lot of real true traditional cash rents really saw a decrease in 2014.
Normally we look at the cost to the renter, the person that's renting the ground, but what about the cost to the landowner that's actually giving it out?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, if we look at real estate taxes, they're increasing. It's not, anybody should be hiding from that fact. It's all over the news. And we've been seeing that cost almost double in the last 10 years as well. And that's certainly a cost that we know is going up because those valuations are already out. So we know 15's costs are going to be higher than 14's.
When you work it out, how bad are the net returns per acre?
Well, it's tough. Corn is maybe in the ballpark for some producers, depending on where the market. It looked like it was closer a little bit ago than what it is this week. But soybeans is really nowhere close on numbers, and it's really a tough thing it's been a good 10 years since we've had margins tight as far as planning for potential losses.
If you're actually tracking your numbers right and penciling this out, what are the expenses that you're figuring here and how they relate to your return?
Yeah, so usually we divide expenses in three ways. We look at direct expenses, those that are attributed to that crop that are going to go away, like seed and fertilizer and chemicals if you wouldn't use that field. Then we have overhead expenses that are those that are stuck, farm insurance, utilities, things that you're going to pay regardless of how many acres that you own, aside from maybe doubling acres or something like that. And then we have the non-farm costs that need to be covered, family living and taxes. So from a purely economic standpoint, when we're looking at maybe whether or not we want to continue cash renting a piece of ground, ideally we're covering all costs. If we can't cover family living and taxes, maybe we're hopefully covering all of our farm costs. Then we can at least supplement with non-farm income or cutting family living expenses, either way to make that work. If we can't cover overhead expenses, hopefully we're at least covering those direct expenses. Economic losses, if you can't cover direct expenses, it's not worth doing. And it'd be really great if it all fell down to the numbers and we could say, forget it, we're not going to do this. But there's a long-term consequence as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and there's long-term consequence to not having that ground the next time comes around. So how much of a loss can you be willing to take in some of these operations?
Well, I think that really depends on the financial position that you're in. So if you're highly leveraged and you have very low working capital, you can't sustain those losses for long. If you've built working capital over the last 10 years and gotten out of debt, you can sustain losses for quite a while, knowing that at some point we're going to see a turnaround and see some profit again. That's just kind of the way it goes. So it's a matter of how long we think it's going to be this way and what position that you're in.
What about for the landowner, trying to set a price that works both for the landowner and for the renter?
It's really tough, and because you can probably go out there and find somebody who's willing to pay those high rents still. But the reality is it's not sustainable for any operation. And I don't think any landowner's really out there to put farmers out of business either. So finding a number that works is really important. If you've got a tenant that will share costs with you so that you can look at that and find a happy medium for the two of you, that's a great solution. Not always attainable, but that would be great. Otherwise, being reasonable and understanding that we don't have the profitability in farming that we had a few years ago, and that's something to consider too.
Tina recently wrote an article on cash rent considerations for Cornhusker economics. You can find that report on the Market Journal website.